The first time I saw her, it was across a crowded cafe on a rainy Friday evening. I had ducked inside to escape the storm, shaking off my umbrella as the bell over the door chimed. The smell of fresh espresso and rain-dampened clothes filled the air, and I remember thinking how ordinary the moment was, until my eyes landed on her. She stood at the counter, waiting for her order, her hair dark and glistening from the drizzle outside. Strands clung to her jawline in a way that made me want to reach out and brush them back. She wore a simple black coat, but nothing about her was simple. She carried herself like she had a secret, one she wasn't afraid to let you almost glimpse before pulling it away again. Her name, I later learned, was Elena. But in that moment, all I knew was that I couldn't stop staring. She turned slightly, as though sensing the weight of my gaze, and her eyes, hazel, flecked with green that caught even the dull cafe light, met mine. It lasted only a second, maybe less. But in that second, I felt something shift inside me, a quiet click, like a lock turning in its place. I ordered my latte, but my thoughts were no longer on the rain or the warmth of the cup between my hands. They were on her laugh, low and husky when the barista made a joke. They were on the way she touched the sleeve of her coat absent-mindedly, fingers tapping against the fabric as though she was waiting for something, or maybe someone. Fate has a strange way of working. A week later, at a friend's dinner party, she walked in. Elena. My Elena, though she didn't belong to me yet. My heart nearly stumbled out of my chest when our eyes locked in recognition, the tiniest curve of her lips telling me she remembered me too. But here's the thing, our town wasn't kind to women like us. Two women wanting each other was a scandal whispered behind closed doors, a rumor passed from one neighbor to the next like wildfire. I had spent years tucking away parts of myself, and from the way Elena carried her confidence carefully, like a glass vase in fragile hands, I knew she had too. So we played the part. In public, we were friends. Just friends. Smiles that lingered a fraction too long, fingers brushing in ways that could be excused as accidents, voices pitched soft when we spoke to each other, as if the world would punish us for being too loud. But beneath the surface, something dangerous stirred. When our knees touched under the dinner table, when her hand slid across mine as she passed me a glass, when our eyes locked longer than necessary, I knew. Pretending might protect us in the daylight, but it couldn't cage the hunger building between us. Behind closed doors, the truth would demand to be seen. And I couldn't wait. The dinner party buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses, the scent of roasted garlic and red wine lingering in the air. Laughter rose and fell around us, but my focus never strayed far from Elena. She sat across the table, chin resting lightly on her hand, her hazel eyes catching mine every so often like magnets refusing to let go. To everyone else, she was just another guest, another friend of a friend. To me, she was the only person in the room. Every smile she offered me was veiled, every word layered with something unspoken. I sipped my wine and tried to appear casual, but my heart betrayed me, beating louder each time her gaze lingered on my lips. The night carried on, conversations weaving around us, until Elena excused herself from the table. A moment later, I followed, using the excuse of needing fresh air. My palms were clammy, my pulse unsteady, but something stronger than fear pushed me forward. I found her on the balcony, leaning against the railing, the cool night breeze tugging gently at her hair. She didn't turn right away when I joined her, but I could see her reflection in the glass door, eyes soft, mouth curved in the faintest smile. "You followed me," she said, her voice teasing but threaded with something deeper. I swallowed hard, stepping closer. Maybe I did. For a long moment, silence stretched between us. The kind of silence that wasn't empty, but heavy with the things neither of us could say in front of others. Out here, away from watchful eyes, it felt different, safer, almost. Elena finally turned, and the sight of her up close nearly unraveled me. Her lashes cast delicate shadows on her cheeks, her lips parted ever so slightly as though she'd been holding back words too. "We can't," she started, but the sentence trailed off, unfinished, her resolve crumbling under the weight of the space between us. My hand brushed against hers, intentionally this time. She didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers curled just enough to hook mine, barely touching but enough to set my entire body alight. Then why does it feel like we already are? I whispered, my voice trembling but steady enough to break the barrier between us. Her breath caught, and for a heartbeat, the world stilled again. The muffled laughter from inside seemed distant, irrelevant. All I could hear was the soft rush of the wind, the echo of our breathing, the pounding of my own heart. Elena leaned closer, just enough that her shoulder brushed mine, her warmth seeping through the thin fabric of my dress. Because behind closed doors, she murmured, there's no one to stop us. The words hung between us like a promise, and though the night wasn't ready to claim it yet, I knew, it was only a matter of time. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. We went back inside, both of us pretending nothing had happened on the balcony, though my body hummed with the memory of her fingers brushing mine. Every laugh, every word exchanged around the table felt hollow compared to the silent conversation Elena and I had shared under the stars. When the night drew to a close, people began saying their goodbyes. I lingered, nervous but unwilling to let her slip away so easily. As fate would have it, she lingered too. The host thanked us for coming, and one by one, the others disappeared into the night until it was just Elena and me, our coats draped over our arms, standing in the hallway. I should go, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Her hazel eyes flicked to mine, searching, as though hoping I'd give her a reason to stay. Do you want me to walk you home? I asked. The words left me before I could second-guess them. Her lips curved into a soft smile. That would be nice. The streets were quiet, damp from the earlier rain. Streetlights cast golden pools across the pavement, and with every step, the tension thickened between us. We walked close enough that our shoulders brushed, yet neither of us moved apart. Her perfume, warm and subtle, with notes of jasmine, wrapped around me like an invisible touch. Halfway to her apartment, she stopped. I turned, and she was watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us was charged, the world narrowing until all that existed was her eyes, her lips, the way her chest rose and fell with each breath. Elena, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if it was a plea or a prayer. She stepped closer, erasing the space between us. Her hand reached up, trembling slightly, and brushed against my cheek. My heart thundered, every nerve ending screaming for her touch. We shouldn't, she murmured, but her thumb traced the curve of my jaw as though she'd been waiting forever to do it. Then don't stop, I breathed, the words tumbling out before I could cage them. And then, finally, her lips met mine. It was soft at first, tentative, as though testing the waters of something forbidden. But when I leaned in, when I let my hand slide around the back of her neck, she deepened the kiss. It was hungry, aching, all the passion we had swallowed in public spilling out in one desperate moment. The world spun away, the quiet street, the risk of being seen, the years of silence we had both endured. All that remained was her mouth on mine, her body pressed close, the undeniable truth that pretending could no longer hold us. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, Elena rested her forehead against mine. Behind closed doors, she whispered again, her lips brushing mine, we won't have to pretend. By the time we reached her apartment, the city felt deserted, as though the universe had cleared the streets just for us. Elena's hand brushed mine again, but this time, she didn't pull away. She slipped her fingers through mine, and I swear, my heart forgot how to beat. Her building was quiet, dimly lit, and when she unlocked the door, she hesitated for only a second before letting me step inside. The air smelled faintly of vanilla candles and fresh linen, soft and inviting. I kicked off my shoes, suddenly hyper-aware of the silence pressing around us. She closed the door behind her with a soft click. And just like that, we were no longer in the world that demanded we pretend. We were free. Elena, I whispered, turning toward her. I didn't get the chance to say anything more. She crossed the space between us in 2 strides, her lips capturing mine again, harder this time, desperate, like she'd been holding back for far too long. My back hit the door, and her body pressed against mine, every inch of her warmth searing into me. Her hands were everywhere, sliding into my hair, trailing down my arms, gripping my waist as though anchoring herself. I gasped into her mouth, the sound swallowed by her kiss. The taste of her lingered, sweet and intoxicating, and my fingers clutched at her coat until she shrugged it off, letting it fall to the floor. We stumbled toward the couch, laughter breaking through the tension when I nearly tripped over her shoes. But then her mouth was on my neck, her breath hot against my skin, and laughter melted into shivers. She pressed me down against the cushions, her body hovering above mine, and for the first time in my life, I didn't care about rules, about whispers, about what anyone would think. I cared only about her. "Elena," I breathed, tugging her closer, "I've wanted this, more than I can admit." Her lips curved into a smile against my collarbone. "You don't have to admit it," she whispered. "I feel it." Her hand slid lower, fingertips tracing the hem of my dress before slipping beneath, sending sparks racing through me. I arched into her touch, my body answering hers without hesitation, without fear. Our kisses deepened, slowed, turned into something that wasn't just hunger but reverence, two women finally giving in to a truth that had been burning between us all along. Every sigh, every touch was a vow. Here, in her apartment, no one could take this from us. For the first time, we weren't pretending. And it was more intoxicating than I had ever imagined. Sunlight streamed softly through the thin curtains, painting Elena's apartment in a golden haze. The storm from the night before had passed, leaving only quiet morning air and the warmth of her body pressed against mine. I woke slowly, my cheek resting on her bare shoulder, the rhythm of her breathing steady and calm. For a moment, I simply stayed there, drinking her in. The way her dark hair spilled across the pillow, the faint curve of a smile tugging at her lips even in sleep, the heat radiating from her skin against mine. My fingers itched to trace her collarbone, to memorize the softness of her curves, to prove to myself that last night wasn't just a dream. Because if it was, I didn't want to wake up. But Elena stirred, her lashes fluttering before her hazel eyes blinked open. She turned her head slowly, finding me there, watching her. For a heartbeat, fear surged through me. What if she regretted it? What if the morning light revealed that it had all been a mistake? But then her smile widened, lazy and warm, and she whispered, "Good morning." I couldn't stop the smile tugging at my own lips. "Good morning." For a while, we lay there in silence, tangled in sheets and each other. Her fingers traced idle circles on my arm, grounding me in the present moment. It felt so natural, so easy, as though this was where we were always meant to end up. But the world outside her apartment wasn't so kind. I knew it, and I saw in her eyes that she knew it too. "Elena," I hesitated, searching for the words. "What happens now?" Her expression softened, but there was a flicker of uncertainty too. She shifted, propping herself on her elbow so she could look at me fully. "Now," she repeated, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Now we stop pretending when we're together. Even if the rest of the world doesn't get to see it." Her words struck something deep in me, a blend of relief and longing. "You mean this isn't just one night?" She leaned down, kissing me softly, tenderly, nothing like the urgency of last night. This was slower, sweeter, a kiss that spoke of something real, something lasting. When she pulled away, her eyes lingered on mine, steady and sure. "Not for me," she whispered. The weight of her confession settled over us, but instead of fear, I felt only lightness. I cupped her face, pulling her back to me, our lips meeting again, sealing the promise between us. The world could judge, could whisper, could turn cold. But here, in her arms, I found warmth I hadn't known I was missing. And in that morning glow, I realized, I didn't just want Elena in stolen nights. I wanted her always. Loving Elena in private was effortless. She filled her apartment with laughter, with the smell of coffee brewing in the mornings and the warmth of her arms around me at night. We built a rhythm, quiet dinners together, whispered confessions beneath the sheets, kisses stolen in the glow of candlelight. With her, I felt whole, alive in a way I hadn't dared to before. But outside, in the daylight of our small town, everything was different. At gatherings with friends, we became actresses, careful with every gesture. A brush of her hand against mine that lasted a second too long could spark suspicion. A lingering glance could ignite rumors. So we trained ourselves in restraint, crafting smiles that seemed friendly but not too fond, conversations that felt casual though our hearts were racing beneath the surface. It wasn't easy. The longing built each time I heard her laugh across a crowded room but couldn't cross the distance to touch her. Each time someone asked if I was dating anyone, and I swallowed the truth that was burning on my tongue. Each time I watched men try to charm her, and she smiled politely, her eyes flicking to me like a secret signal, reminding me that her heart was already mine. One evening, at another dinner party, the tension became unbearable. I sat beside her, our shoulders nearly touching, every nerve in my body screaming to lean into her warmth. The conversation drifted around us, politics, work, meaningless chatter, but all I could think about was how close her thigh was to mine. Under the table, her hand slid toward me. Our fingers brushed, then intertwined, hidden beneath the white linen cloth. My breath caught, but I forced myself to smile as though nothing was happening. She squeezed my hand gently, her thumb tracing the inside of my wrist in a way that sent shivers through me. It was dangerous, reckless even, but I couldn't let go. That small, secret connection was enough to sustain me, even as we laughed along with everyone else, pretending to be nothing more than friends. Later, walking me home, Elena sighed, her shoulders tense. Sometimes I hate this, she admitted quietly. Hate what? I asked, though I already knew. Pretending. Hiding. Wanting to reach for you and knowing I can't. She stopped, turning to face me. Her hazel eyes shone in the dim streetlight, fierce and vulnerable all at once. Do you ever feel like we're living two lives? One for them and one for us? I reached for her hand, openly this time, no one around to judge. Every day, I whispered. And yet, as I laced my fingers with hers, I knew I would endure the charade 1,000 times over. Because when the doors closed behind us, when the world fell away, what we had was real. And that was worth everything. It happened on a night we hadn't planned. Elena had invited me over after work, her message simple but charged, come. I need you. By the time I arrived, the city had sunk into darkness, and her apartment was lit only by the soft glow of a single lamp. The moment I stepped through the door, she pulled me into her arms, her lips finding mine in a kiss that was desperate, almost frantic. I missed you, she whispered against my mouth, her fingers tangled in my hair. I barely managed to breathe, it's only been 2 days. Too long, she murmured, kissing me again. We moved together in a blur, laughter and sighs tumbling between kisses, the kind of reunion that made every risk worth it. Her touch was urgent, claiming, and I gave myself over to her without hesitation. For hours, the world outside didn't exist. But then, just as I lay in her arms, skin flushed and heart finally steady, a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. Elena froze. My heart jumped into my throat. No one ever came by unannounced. She sat up, clutching the sheets to her chest. Stay here, she whispered, slipping quickly into her robe. I scrambled for my clothes, panic pulsing through me. If it was a neighbor, maybe it was nothing. But what if it wasn't? What if someone had noticed the way we looked at each other in public, had followed me here, had put the pieces together? Another knock. Louder this time. Elena, a voice called. My blood ran cold. It was her coworker, Rachel, a woman who always seemed a little too curious about Elena's private life. I saw your lights on and thought I'd drop by, you left your notebook at the office. I pressed a hand to my mouth, willing my breathing silent. Elena opened the door only a crack, just enough to speak. Rachel, thank you, but it's really late. Rachel's tone was cheerful but probing. Oh, are you with someone? I could feel sweat prickle my skin, every nerve screaming as I clutched my half-buttoned blouse. The silence stretched, my heart pounding louder with every second. Finally, Elena said smoothly, no, I was just about to sleep. Thanks for the notebook. She shut the door firmly, locked it, and leaned against it with a sigh of relief. When she turned, her eyes found me, wide and shaken but burning with the same fire I felt. "That was too close," I whispered, my voice trembling. Elena crossed the room in 3 strides, cupping my face in her hands. "I don't care," she said fiercely, her lips crashing against mine. "I'm done being scared of wanting you." And in that moment, danger only seemed to fuel the passion between us. Every kiss after tasted of risk, every touch of rebellion. If the world wanted to know our secret, let it try. Because nothing, not gossip, not fear, not even a knock on the door, could keep us apart. The scare with Rachel lingered in my chest for days, like an echo I couldn't silence. Every glance from a stranger felt suspicious, every casual question from friends felt like a test. I had always known our secret couldn't stay hidden forever, but now the truth pressed against the walls of our lives, threatening to spill out. And yet, the more dangerous it became, the less I wanted to hide. Elena seemed to feel it too. One evening, we sat curled up on her couch, wine glasses untouched on the table, silence stretching between us. Her hand rested over mine, thumb tracing slow circles, but her eyes were distant, caught somewhere between fear and determination. Finally, she spoke. "I don't want to keep pretending. Not anymore." The words made my heart race, but not with fear, with hope. "You mean?" I want to live my life with you. Not in shadows. Not in stolen hours. If people can't understand that, then let them talk." Her gaze found mine, steady and unwavering. "I'd rather face the world with you than hide from it without you." Emotion surged in my chest, threatening to spill over. I cupped her face, pulling her into a kiss that tasted of tears and relief, of promises too long delayed. The very next day, we tested it. We went out, together. Nothing scandalous, just a walk in the park, hand in hand. At first, my body tensed with every passing stranger, waiting for whispers, for stares. But Elena squeezed my hand tighter, her smile bold and radiant, and slowly, my fear gave way to something stronger. Pride. Yes, people looked. A few frowned. But some smiled too, genuine and kind. And for the first time, I realized the whispers didn't matter. What mattered was the warmth of Elena's hand in mine, the way she laughed freely beside me, unafraid. That night, back in her apartment, the shift between us was undeniable. When she kissed me, it wasn't a kiss bound by secrecy, it was open, unrestrained, a celebration of the freedom we had claimed. We undressed each other slowly, reverently, savoring every inch of skin revealed, every sigh that filled the quiet. Our bodies moved together with a new rhythm, no longer fueled by fear but by choice. Every touch was a vow, every breath a declaration, this is who we are, this is what we want, and no one can take it away. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets and each other, Elena whispered into the darkness, "No more pretending." I kissed her forehead, my heart so full it ached. Never again. The world outside might still judge, might still whisper. But we had chosen each other. And behind closed doors, or out in the open, that love was ours to keep. Forever.